Hello everyone, Constitutionalist Libertarian here. And in this video today, we're going to be taking a look at what happened June 16th, which for some, it's still that point here in the U.S. For me, it's almost 2 a.m. being here in New England. But what happened yesterday, living in this region, I just had to chime in on. In Taunton, Mass., a girl was found guilty of manslaughter and faces up to 20 years in prison because of texting, because of texts, all right? Because this judge decided to rule on feels instead of ruling on fact. And what's disgusting is the narrative that they're trying to push with this. Earlier today, I happened to catch a little bit of Fox News, figuring, well, you know, I'd see what the establishment right was saying for the day, and this is what caught my attention, was them reporting on it. And it shocked me to hear Fox News having these two people on the show that it was, the segment for it, and the host, and they're sitting there talking about how this woman was guilty basically for what she did. I mean, I was appalled. I wouldn't expect something like that from Fox News, because it's a matter of free speech. I figured I would see that from the left, which I have to admit, if you look at a lot of the articles here from left-leaning outlets, or far-leaning left outlets even, they're trying to use this as a means to go after free speech. I honestly expected the New York Times to do the same thing, but I actually have to give them credit, because not only did they, in an article, report on this, I believe, relatively fairly, or pretty fairly, actually. They even have an op-ed on it. And the op-ed comes out and basically has the same exact stance. Now, I want to, from this point, say that what happened with her boyfriend committing suicide, I want to say it's a tragedy. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, to have their child commit suicide, or their brother or sister, or anything like that. That right there is very sad. What this girl said leading up to the suicide, definitely detestable. But on some levels, having experience with exes that would constantly bring up suicide, you get to a point where you literally have heard enough, and you just say, well, fine, go do it. And with this ruling, if you were to do something like that and they actually killed themselves, you can go to prison for 20 years for manslaughter now, at least in Massachusetts. And that's very disgusting. Let's get into the article here from the New York Times. It's written by Catherine Q. Seeley and Jess Bidgood. I hope I said Catherine's name right. Hope I didn't butcher it too bad. Taunton, Mass. For a case that had played out in thousands of text messages, what made Michelle Carter's behavior a crime, a judge concluded, came in a single phone call. Just as her friend Conrad Roy III stepped out of the truck he had filled with lethal fumes, Miss Carter told him over the phone to get back in the cab and then listen to him die without trying to help him. The command in Miss Carter's failure to help, said Judge Lawrence Moniz of Bristol County Juvenile Court, made her guilty of involuntary manslaughter in a case that had consumed New England, left 2 families destroyed, and raised questions about the scope of legal responsibility. Miss Carter, now 20, is to be sentenced August 3rd and faces up to 20 years in prison. Now the thing is what she did, definitely deplorable, disgusting, not what someone should do. And I've heard conflicting reports on whether or not she listened to him die. Okay? I mean, it looks like she may have just said, you know, go ahead, go kill yourself. And he's like, well, fine, I'm gonna. And it happened. And that was that, or she actually listened in. I mean, when you have a conflicting report on it, we don't necessarily know which one to take on it. But either way, all right, what she did was speech. She has no responsibility for his actions, okay? They're trying to take his personal responsibility and put it on her. And that's extremely, extremely troubling. Because the thing is, and this is what gets me, because they're saying that she had a responsibility. Now, she's a private citizen. She has no responsibility for that, okay? But police officers who are literally sitting there watching someone get murdered, assaulted and murdered, they have no constitutional responsibility to protect and serve. I mean, here's an article from 2005, written by Linda Greenhouse from the New York Times, okay? Showing that the Supreme Court had just ruled at that point, that they had no constitutional duty to protect someone. So, and I'm going to have the links to these with this video. But the thing is so we have here the Supreme Court saying that the police have no responsibility in regards to us. Even if they're watching us get murdered right in front of them, they have no responsibility to do anything. Yet, this young girl, which I've seen reports that she's got her own mental issues, besides this boy who had his own obvious mental issues, and they're saying that she's responsible for him. She was a minor. But a police officer, a grown adult, has no responsibility for a person that they see something happening to in front of them. Do you see something wrong with that? I mean, that goes to show how fucked up the regressive left has gotten. That they'll rule a young girl has a personal responsibility for someone, while the police have had the Supreme Court say that they don't. Talk about fucked up double standards. It's disgusting. The judge's decision handed down on Friday stunned many legal experts with its conclusion that words alone could cause a suicide. This is saying that what she did is killing him, that her words literally killed him, that the murder weapon here was her words, said Matthew Segal, a lawyer with the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts, which raised concerns about the case to the state's high court. That's a drastic expansion of criminal law in Massachusetts, which it's beyond massive, okay? Because now, heaven forbid, okay, someone out here on the internet, on Facebook, on YouTube, in a comments section, wherever, if they turn around and they say, go drink some bleach, person says, well, I'm going to go do that. You go, fine, go ahead, to like a regressive leftist, and they actually go and do that. If they were in Massachusetts, you could be charged with manslaughter. You could be, looking at possible extradition and being charged. I mean, that should really scare people that can happen. I mean, we are talking about, in this day and age, when the regressive left is trying to attack people's speech, this judge feels that they have a right to expand law that was never intended to cover actions of speech, because speech is inalienable, the right to it, and is doing that. Ms. Carter's defense team is expected to appeal the verdict, with good reason. Legal experts said that it seemed to extend manslaughter law into a new territory, and that if it stood, it could have far-reaching implications, at least in Massachusetts. Exactly. And with what I just said, look, will the next case be a Facebook posting in which someone is encouraged to commit a crime? Nancy Gertner, a former federal judge and Harvard law professor, asked. This puts all of the things that you say in the mix of criminal responsibility. Exactly. It's to criminalize speech. You have them trying to go after people out here on, like on YouTube, by getting them to self-censor. Now, when in Massachusetts, someone does something because you said, oh, go do it, because, you know, wow, fuck personal responsibility, because, you know, the way I was raised, and this is a direct quote coming from my mother, who was a feminist when she was younger and is now, especially seeing with the way feminism has gone, considers herself an egalitarian. But she taught me, you know, if you have, and this is, as I said, a direct quote, if you have the balls enough to do something, you better have the balls enough to admit it. Now, this Roy kid, he can't admit what he did because what he did was permanent. He ended his life, and that's a tragedy. And I can see the parents are hurting, and they're wanting to lash out and blame someone. Fine, blame her. But don't expect her to go to jail for 20 years because your kid's a fucking moron who decided, well, someone told me to go back in the truck and I'm going to go back in. All right? That's on your fucking kid. That's not on that girl. Yeah, what she did was shitty if she was listening in while he fucking died. That is really shitty. And you know what? If there is a heaven, hell, whatever, when she gets to the pearly gates, she'll have to answer for that. Okay? But what she did was not a crime. She did not kill him. Judge Moniz unspooled his verdict in a packed courtroom, which was silent except for his voice and Miss Carter's gasping sobs. By the time he told Miss Carter to stand up and pronounced her guilty, the two families seated on either side of the courtroom aisle, Miss Carter's and Mr. Roy's, wept too. The verdict concluded an emotionally draining week-long trial in southeastern Massachusetts involving two troubled teenagers who had built a virtual relationship largely on texting from 2012 to 2014. Miss Carter, then 17, started out encouraging Mr. Roy to seek treatment for his depression, but then abruptly changed, and 2 weeks before he killed himself on July 12, 2014, she encouraged him repeatedly to do it. Well, see, I'm sure, and I've actually had an ex who, a couple cans short of a six-pack, a few fries short of a Happy Meal. Yeah. So, she used to constantly bring up suicide, and I would tell her, go talk to someone, go get help. But you get to a point where if you keep hearing bluff after bluff after bluff, you go, fine, do it. And I'm sure, looking at the situation, his history of suicide, or attempting to commit suicide, I should say, or threats of suicide, because I've seen conflicting reports on that note, because one report said threats of suicide, the other report said attempts. And regardless, if you do attempt after attempt, and you're not dying, you're usually doing it for the attention. If you say you're going to commit suicide over and over, you're doing it for the same reason, usually. That attention thing. So when the person who is having that thrown on them, day in and day out, finally just says, fine, go do it. And at least now in Massachusetts, you can be charged with manslaughter and look at facing 20 years in prison. For all the scrutiny during the trial of their text, the judge based his guilty verdict on a phone conversation. Once Mr. Roy drove his truck to a remote spot at a Kmart parking lot, the two ceased texting and instead talked on their cell phones. When Mr. Roy, with fumes gathering in the cab of his truck, apparently had a change of heart and stepped out, the judge said, Miss Carter told him to get back in, fully knowing his ambiguities, his fears, his concerns. Now, here's the thing. How do they know what actually was said during this conversation? Did they get it from the NSA, the Massachusetts State Police and local police departments' illegal use of Stingray devices, or are they just blatant ass guessing? Because I don't think she testified. Now, here's the thing. They'll never know unless they got it from the NSA or something, what was said in that conversation. Unless she did testify to this. I mean, they're going by hearsay because she said it was her fault to someone. That he killed himself. And the thing is if someone you know close to you did kill themselves, that had been, doing the attention thing for a very long time, and they actually finally did do it, you would feel guilty over it, but it's still not your fault because it was their own personal fucking choice to do it. I mean, okay, so basically what they're doing is so there is no proof of what was said in the conversation, because look, but the phone conversation was not recorded, and the only evidence of its content came 3 months after the suicide in a text from Miss Carter to a friend. Sam, his death is my fault. Like, honestly, I could have stopped him, Miss Carter wrote. I was on the phone with him, and he got out of the car because it was working, and he got scared. She said she then instructed him to get back in. The prosecution made this phone call, as described in Miss Carter's text, the heart of its case, and the judge accepted it as factual incriminating. So there's no actual proof per se that this text is the way that it was. I mean, because look at this. They're even admitting this in the New York Times. Gotta give them credit. I gotta give these two ladies credit. Or them. I don't want to upset anyone with the gender thing. The defense strongly argued that there was nothing to substantiate what Miss Carter had said on the phone, and insisted that Mr. Conrad, who tried to kill himself before, was determined to take his own life, regardless of anything Miss Carter did or said. Exactly. So, he was going to kill himself, regardless. Okay, so she told him to get back in. Yeah, that's really shitty. That's scummy to do. But he actually did it. He made the conscious choice to do that. Where were the fucking parents? If this kid's having this type of issue with fucking suicide, where the fuck were the parents? If I had a kid like this and he wanted to kill himself like that, I wouldn't let him out of my fucking sight. He wouldn't have a vehicle. He wouldn't have a fucking license. Okay? I would take those things away from him, and I would watch him like a fucking hawk. I don't care if he's 17 years old. Turns 18, yeah, he can get that shit. And I would still try to keep an eye on him. But the thing is, the parents were... the parents, they knew. Why aren't they being charged with manslaughter? They let their kid die because they didn't do everything within their power to make sure that he didn't kill himself. But oh no, the parents are the fucking victims. Whatever happened to personal responsibility? It is because of you raising that kid and either not raising him right or not catering to his, mental needs, okay, on nurturing and mental help and whatever else. That is your fault. You want someone to blame besides yourself. So they won't. So what did these parents do? Because you, meaning them, don't want to deal with that pain. They went after this girl. Yes, what she did was shitty. But she's not responsible for him killing himself. They're more responsible than she is. Because they knew that's their child. And they allowed him to go off on his own. Knowing that he's got this thing to want to kill himself, because they're talking about multiple attempts. I mean, that right there should say something. Now, let's quickly look at their op-ed, their opinion page here. Because I got to give Robbie Soave, hope I didn't butcher that too bad. I got to give him some credit for actually coming out with this. Can malicious speech constitute violence? No, but Friday's shocking court decision, which found Michelle Carter guilty of sending lethal text messages, is bound to confuse the issue. Which, rightfully so. I mean, you go and tell someone, like I said, to go drink bleach, alright? Or back in the day when I was dealing with, like, trolls and stuff like that, when I was, you know, a millennial's age, one of my favorite ones was go draw a hot tub, grab a razor blade, and make sure to cut make sure to cut lengthwise. You know, I mean, today if I said something like that and someone actually did that, I'd be facing 20 years. I'd be facing extradition in 20 years for manslaughter, like this girl, for her definitely, you know, morally detestable actions, but they weren't criminal. Judge Lawrence Moniz of Bristol County Juvenile Court in southeastern Massachusetts ruled that Miss Carter, 17 at the time of her crime, had committed involuntary manslaughter by urging her depressed 18-year-old boyfriend, Conrad Roy III, to kill himself. Mr. Roy had flirted with the idea for weeks, and Miss Carter, after initially telling him to seek counseling, seemed to warm to the idea, consistently egging him on via text. The time is right and you're ready. You just need to do it. You can't keep living this way. You just need to do it like you did last time and not think about it and just do it, babe. I'm sure she was getting sick of it. You know, I mean, she's got her own mental issues from what was reported. So, yeah. Miss Carter also struggled. See? Miss Carter also struggled with mental illness. Her lawyers claimed antidepressant drugs influenced her behavior, which they do. All right. When you're taking antidepressants so that you don't feel suicidal and they can cause you to commit suicide, that should be a big fucking red flag on taking the shit. Though the prosecution preferred to cast her as a callous narcissist who craved the sympathy of her peers and believed a suicidal boyfriend would earn her a popularity boost. Regardless, she didn't fucking put the keys in his hand. She didn't give him the vehicle, okay, knowing that he was suicidal, okay? She didn't give him the hose to run from the tailpipe. No. The kid probably got every fucking thing from his parents' house or his parents directly, because I'm guessing driving an F-250, they ain't cheap. It's probably the parents that got it for him. The hose he probably got out of the shed or the garage. I mean, come on now. In either case, Miss Carter's conduct was morally reprehensible. Exactly. But at least until today's ruling, it was clearly legal. While some states criminalize the act of convincing people to commit suicide, Massachusetts has no such law. Moreover, speech that is reckless, hateful, and ill-willed nevertheless enjoys First Amendment protection. Exactly. So this judge decided to rule that the First Amendment don't mean shit to him. And I have to give the New York Times credit for the way that they're reporting on this, especially with this opinion piece. I mean, this guy is dead on. Moreover, speech that... While the Supreme Court has carved out narrowly tailored exceptions for literal threat of violence and incitement to lawless action, telling someone they should kill themselves is not the same as holding a gun to their head and pulling the trigger, nor is it akin to threatening to kill the president, which is specifically prohibited by law, and in any case only considered a felony if done knowingly and willfully. Merely expressing the hope that the president dies isn't enough. Judge Mona's verdict is a stunning act of defiance against this general principle. No, it's a stunning act of defiance against the United States Constitution. The regressive left doesn't give a shit about the Constitution. Okay? With a name like Mona's, okay, I'm guessing, and I hate to judge on a name, but I'm guessing die-hard, regressive left, Hitler-loving Democrat. Just a guess. I mean, especially with the attack on free speech here. By finding Ms. Carter guilty of involuntary manslaughter rather than some lesser misdeeds such as bullying or harassment, the court has dealt a blow to the constitutionally enshrined idea that speech is not itself violence. That's a cause for concern. Well, of course it is, because the left has, this is what they want, because the left has been going, words hurt me, words are violence. Now, they actually have it codified by a legal fucking ruling because this judge is a fuckwit regressive who's decided to legislate from the bench. Mr. Roy's death is a terrible tragedy, but it is not a reason to stretch the boundaries of our criminal laws or abandon the protections of our Constitution, wrote Matthew Segal, legal director of the ACLU in Massachusetts, in a statement. He's right. The implications of this conviction go far beyond the tragic circumstances of Mr. Roy's death. If allowed to stand, Ms. Carter's conviction could chill important and worthwhile end-of-life discussions between loved ones across the Commonwealth. But it's more than just that, in which I'm surprised the ACLU isn't looking at this fact that if you go and you tell someone, well, you need money, just go rob a bank, and you keep egging them on because you're sick of them, because you would think that no rational fucking person would go rob a bank. And you're just sick of hearing them going, well, I'm always broke, because, they're one of these fucking idiot morons who the left love, that keeps spending their fucking money, doesn't save up their money to go, I don't know, maybe get an education to make, better choices in life, to get a better job, to make more money so that they can have those things. No. So the person finally goes and robs the bank. Now, they made that conscious choice. Personal fucking responsibility. But then they go in Massachusetts and say, oh, well, they told me to rob the bank and they kept telling me to rob a bank, so I robbed a bank. So now, under the same type of ruling, they can charge you as part of that fucking robbery. When you're just going, look, I'm done, I'm just sick and tired of listening to this stupid fucking moron who can't fucking have an idea of fiscal responsibility, but has an idea of reality TV, what the latest rappers got for gear, and is trying to emulate that shit. And went out, but they went and robbed a fucking bank, and now I'm responsible. That's what they want you. That's what they want, is for you to be responsible for other people's actions. Because this way they can chill free speech, like they said. They can now, if they don't like you for what you're saying on that note, and someone goes and does something. I mean, with all the negative shit that Bernie has said, okay? The middle class and the Republicans are all evil, and the 1%, which is the fucking middle class in this country. All right? And some guy goes out and shoots at, Republican members of Congress. Bernie, oh no, we can't hold him responsible. We can't hold the fucking far-left media responsible for inciting that shit. But we can hold this girl responsible for some fuckwit killing himself. And I'm sorry for putting it that way, but he is a fuckwit for ending his life. Okay, and I do feel bad that he did that. I feel bad for his parents. I feel bad for his relatives, beyond his parents, whether they're siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever. Okay, friends too. I feel bad for all of them having to deal with that. But he's a fuckwit for ending his life. She's a fuckwit in general herself. With her thought processes on things. I mean, but that doesn't mean that personal responsibility should be shifted to other people. But that's what they want, because they want to be able to use this for silencing people or going after people they don't like. The one-off decision in juvenile court may not sway legal precedent, but it will undoubtedly draw the attention of school officials and police officers in the state of Massachusetts and negatively affect an area of the law already suffering from authoritarian governmental overreach. teen discipline. Well, yeah. When you have... Well, actually, you think about it, might be part of the idea, because how do you radicalize the next generation coming up, hoping to bring them left? You get in their head this hate for authority, but yet you're the ones who are putting in this big government of authority. And if these kids have to deal with more discipline, they're going to hate the man more. And it could either backfire, it could either work in their favor or backfire if this was to happen. Because the next generation coming up after the millennials is one of the most conservative generations out there at this point right now. Or at least in modern history. And it's because of all this leftist crap. So, who knows? It could make people even further on the side of conservatism, or it could, because they see what it actually is, and you know what the motives are with it, or it could just, if they're dumbed down, give them a hate for authority. For decades, effort have been underway to criminalize every obnoxious or problematic social interaction between K through 12 kids in American schools. Exactly true. Because they don't want kids to be kids. They don't want them to think for themselves. They don't want them to learn from their own experiences. Hardly a week passes without a national news story about teenagers who are arrested on child pornography charges and face unfathomably long prison sentences because they had inappropriate pictures of classmates or even themselves on their phones. Exactly. I mean, when you have a bunch of minors exchanging pics or having their own pics, okay, like you have a young kid, he takes a picture of his junk and he's getting nailed for child porn, or a girl or whatever, when you have that going on, okay, and they're children themselves, that makes absolutely no sense. It's a complete twisting of the intent of the law. It was never intended to jail minors over minors. You're a minor. How you look at that and say, okay, well, yeah, that's the same thing as like some sicko who's, you know, sitting there trolling the dark web for fucking kiddie porn. I mean, if you fucking equate that as the same thing and you're going to charge them, you seriously get something wrong in your fucking head. Because they're not the same thing. In Iowa, in June 2016, authorities tried to brand a 14-year-old girl as a sex offender for Snapchatting while wearing a sports bra and boy shorts. Holy fucking shit. So she's wearing something that wasn't per se even as revealing as what 14-year-old girls will wear at the beach these days. And they tried to nail her as a sex offender. That's fucked up. And that's the type of shit that's going on here. The following month, Minnesota police officers busted a 17-year-old for swapping consensual sex with his 16-year-old girlfriend. Oh my God. See, the thing is, and what he says here next is so true. Such matters should be handled by parents and teachers, not the cops. The same is true for the various issues that plagued Miss Carter and Mr. Roy. But see, the thing is the regressive left, they want to be the parents. They want to be the ones to dictate to people. They don't want parents to do their jobs because family, okay, and having actual parents turns out relatively normal, well-adjusted people. Not the fuckwits that they need that are dumbed down and stupid enough and to actually look at the Democrats and go, oh, gimme. By all means, let's empower teachers to confront harassment and refer troubled teenagers to mental health professionals. But we don't need to broadly criminalize teen cruelty to do that. Exactly. I mean, I'll say this. I grew up, because of my weight, I got, especially at that age, I mean, I lost a lot of weight as I got older, but at that age, I got picked on growing up as kids in high school, from elementary school on. I got picked on because of my weight through high school. And I didn't go and do no Columbine. I didn't go and talk about killing myself, because you know what? You suck it up. Okay? You grit your teeth and fucking bear it. That's what people did. See, in this country now, it's, oh, medicate, 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 medicate. Oh, woe is me, your problems, your problems. You know what? Previous generations, they went, yeah, I got problems. They sucked it up and they fucking went through their day. Each and every day. No matter how shitty life got there, yep, I gotta just fucking deal with it. Now it's, oh, woe is me. And help me, nanny state. This is what they want. They don't want people who can fucking fend for themselves. By all means, let's empower teachers to confront harassment and refer troubled teenagers to mental health professionals. But we don't need to broadly criminalize teen cruelty to do that. Nor should we continue down the path of pretending that the First Amendment's ironclad protection of hateful expression is voided whenever someone says or texts something that makes us squirm. Exactly. See, this is just the judge acting like a little fucking Antifa little shitbag trying to silence Milo type thing. Okay? This is them putting their feelings above facts. In this case, above the law. What Miss Carter said to Mr. Roy was outrageous. Sending her to prison on a possible 20-year sentence is both outrageous and unjust. Exactly. So, police officers can literally sit there, and this was, I believe, part of this case, actually, that I had brought up earlier. But they can sit there and watch someone in front of them have an assault or a murder, attempted murder on them, or successful murder, and be drinking their coffee, sitting in the cruiser, and have no responsibility. But this girl is expected to take full responsibility for what this kid did himself. Another one I gotta say that was half decent on reporting. I would have to say is the New York Post. I mean, they weren't as good as the New York Times, but they were actually half decent in their reporting. This one right here really got me, the USA Today article, because they're definitely pushing an agenda when they're putting it like this. I mean, just look at how they worded it to push this agenda. The judge noted that the 18-year-old Roy climbed out of the truck as it was filling with toxic gas and told Carter he was scared. "Get back in," Carter told Roy, according to a friend who testified. Carter described the conversation in a text message to her about a month after Roy died. The court finds that instructing Mr. Roy to get back in the truck constitutes wanton and reckless conduct by Miss Carter, the judge said. He said Carter had a duty to call someone for help when she knew Roy was attempting suicide, yet she did not call the police or Roy's family, he noted. She did not issue a simple additional instruction: get out of the truck. I mean, you can clearly tell where USA was going with this one. Let's criminalize speech. Let's make speech a weapon. Let's make it cause hurt. Let's make it cause an assault. That's what they're saying with that. NBC wasn't much better with their coverage. I mean, just look at this. Moniz said that when Carter instructed Roy to return to his vehicle, she became responsible because she knew he was entering a toxic environment inconsistent with human life. Moniz also noted that Carter did not contact Roy's family when she knew his location and intended actions. Moniz said Carter had a responsibility to take action to stop a life-threatening risk. The reckless failure to fulfill this duty can result in a charge of manslaughter, he said. Okay, then every Massachusetts cop that sat there and watched someone fucking get shot, stabbed, assaulted, whatever, or watched anyone commit a crime, by your logic, they should all be charged. Oh, wait, no, the Supreme Court said that they didn't have a duty to protect and serve. So now you're going to extend a belief that she had a right to protect him? No. See, this is what's even more fucked up. I mean, just look at what NBC News is saying here. Although she was not physically present, the prosecution argued that Carter texted Roy moments prior to his death and encouraged his suicide instead of trying to prevent it. I mean, when you're putting it like that, you're clearly biased and you want to make it sound like that your words cause some, have an effect on someone and they go and do something, you're responsible for their actions. I mean, that's what NBC's trying to push here. So, I mean, this is the type of thing that's going on with this. And as a New Englander, the place where we're talking about the cradle of the American Revolution. I mean, Taunton, Mass, really isn't that far from Boston and Concord, Lexington and Concord and all that. And this shit's going on. Where the shot heard around the world happened. That should fucking say something. Just take one look at that fact that Massachusetts, a place where the Boston Tea Party happened, where our founding fathers like Samuel Adams came from. And I didn't bring that up because of the beer. I mean, he's just known well around here. And that's why the beer was named after him. But when you have that type of environment and it becomes this shit fest, it just makes you wonder. And when people ask why I try to avoid spending time in Massachusetts, being in New England, I can point to stuff like this. Because heaven forbid, if I told someone to go, walk out into traffic because they were annoying me, and they fucking did that, I could now be charged with manslaughter. Well, this is the Constitutionalist Libertarian. If you liked the video, definitely hit that thumbs up over there in the corner, and under the video, and also subscribe. Thank you all. You have a good day.